Hey, so welcome to our English and Reading PSAT practice hosted through STEM to Girls. So a quick notice before we begin. This is a recorded session and a recording will be posted on our website shortly. So please do not record or screenshot this meeting or share the meeting link with anyone else during the presentation. This is going to be a casual PSAT practice session and your video will not be seen in the recording. We ask that you do not unmute at any time during this meeting and any questions you have can be asked in the chat directly to us. So who we are, STEM to Girls is a student-led nonprofit organization that empowers young girls and women to pursue STEM careers by providing STEM-related workshops, resources, and opportunities. Despite being a relatively new initiative, we are planning several events such as academic preparation videos and engagement opportunities for elementary school students. We are committed to informing and encouraging girls to pursue careers in STEM, and our vision is to create a world where girls have confidence in pursuing a STEM career. So, and a quick introduction to ourselves. My name is Jovita D'Souza. I am a senior at Bayport High School, and I will be hosting this English and reading practice session.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Kara Reen. I'm also a senior at Bayport High School. I'm currently a National Merit semifinalist through this PSAT test I took last year. Tomorrow night at 7:30, I will be back here on YouTube to host a math session where I'll be going over topics on the math PSAT exam and doing practice exams.
And here is some of our social media information if you'd like to follow us. And a quick session overview for how we're going to be running this practice session is that I will start with an example question. I will quickly debrief it once you have had time to answer the question and then go through some strategies that will help you. And we will repeat this for one of each type of question that will appear on the English or reading PSAT.
I'll be going over quickly the format of the exam. The PSAT is made up of 3 sections. First is the reading section where there are 5 passages, with one being a set of passages. There are 47 questions within those passages, and you will have 1 hour to complete the reading section. The next section is the writing and language section where there's no writing involved, but more editing skills and it tests grammar rules and how to edit student writing. This is quicker. It's 35 minutes for 44 questions. The last section is the mathematics section, and it's divided into 2 smaller sections. For the no calculator part, it's 13 multiple choice questions with 4 write-in questions. So a total of 17 questions for 25 minutes. The next mathematics section is the calculator section, where there is 45 minutes for 23 multiple choice questions and then 4 write-in questions.
All right, and we can begin section 1. This will be the vocabulary and reading focused section. So the first type of question is intended to assess your vocabulary and deduction skills. This part of the test will often use vocabulary that you may be unfamiliar with, and so I ask that you do not be discouraged if you see intimidating vocabulary. There are strategies to overcoming this. So we can begin with our first question. I will give you about 3 or 4 minutes to just read the passage and choose an answer that you see best, that you think best fits. And you can write that down somewhere if you so choose, and then we can go through the answer. Okay, so that was a bit of a quick one, so we can actually move on a little bit quicker. So here's a quick explanation of why the correct answer is C, resurgence and periphery. So a resurgence essentially means an increase or revival after a period of little activity, and periphery means the outer limits or edge of an area or object. This fits in the context of the question and is therefore the right answer. And here are some helpful strategies for actually going through and answering questions like this. So one of the biggest hints that you can get is context clues. In this question specifically, the phrase near the very center at the end of the sentence hints that the correct answer might be periphery, which means at the edge of really any concept. Another helpful strategy is using root words. For example, in resurgence, you have the root word re, which means to do again, or surge, which means to revive or bring back. So that is really helpful in figuring out words that you may not have seen before or are unfamiliar with. And it's also really helpful that you can go back to other words that you may have seen that look similar and use similar concepts to help answer this question and understand the meaning of certain words. And this is sort of what I said with related vocab. For example, what really hinted that the answer was periphery in this question was peripheral vision, which means vision from the corner of your eyes. So kind of using information that you already know to answer these questions will really help you move forward. Here is question 2. So this is a reading question that is intended to assess comprehension. They'll often give you a short passage and ask a few questions about language and the central theme of this passage. So we can move on, and I will give you about 2 minutes to answer this question, and we can move on to the explanation. Okay, and we can move on to the explanation for this question. So the correct answer is A, to describe a creative philosophy. The passage will mainly describes the style that the author wishes to utilize in their upcoming project, as well as what they dislike about minimalist art. While the author does briefly mention a concept and a brief historical fact, this is not the focus of the passage, therefore making A the correct answer. And here is part 2 of a similar question. I will give you about a minute and a half more to answer this question as well. Okay, coming back to the explanation for this question, the correct answer was D, to draw a parallel between a style of art and a style of music. The author compares their preferred art style to a blues singer and does not mention anything really else about this blues singer. This is a parallel between art and music, therefore making D the correct answer. And some helpful strategies for reading the passage. You do not have to make annotations on the passage or take notes on the information presented. I know that is a helpful strategy for some, but it is quite time consuming. And in the essence of time, we should probably just skim the paragraph and refer back as needed when you are answering the questions. And another helpful strategy for comprehension is to try to think of the passage as a whole for questions regarding theme, purpose, or context. Try not to focus on small details within the passage, especially for these types of questions. And then we can move on to the third type of question, which is intended to assess reading comprehension and textual comparison. Questions like this will use a passage or two about a related topic, and you will have to compare both of the paragraphs. This question we have included in the presentation is intended to give you practice with reading and pacing. It is difficult to place the passages side by side on this presentation, but there is a reference for how it will look like on the PSAT exam after we have answered those questions. Answer the questions to the best of your abilities that we ask, understanding that this type of question will be easier to visualize on the actual exam. So I will give you about 3 minutes to read passage 1, and then we'll move on to passage 2 and have 3 more minutes for that. And we can move on to passage 2 and 3 more minutes for you guys to read this one over. So here's the first question that you will be asked on the PSAT. I will give you 1 minute to choose an answer, and we can move on for as to why the answer will be correct. And the correct answer for this was A. It has been undermined by recent discoveries in molecular biology. The authors of both passages believe that the mind and the body are separate, despite discoveries made by science, therefore making the phrase used in passage 1 agreeable with the author of passage 2. And we can move on to the second question. I will give you 1 more minute to answer this. Okay, and an explanation for this question, the correct answer was D, acknowledge that a concept may seem unappealing. This phrase is located in the paragraph containing a counterclaim, therefore hinting that this phrase most likely has something to do with differing viewpoints. We know that this paragraph contains a counterclaim because it begins with the word although, which is typically a word used to contrast two ideas. So a helpful strategy for this one is similar to the past question in that you do not have to make notes on the passage, quickly skim it and refer back as needed. And another helpful strategy is comprehension. So again, be sure to refer back to the passage for reference. The actual PSAT will not have the full quotes written beneath the question like we have done in this session. However, you will be able to refer back to the passage itself on the exam, which makes it a little bit easier. Remember to stay calm even if the content of the passage is unfamiliar. The question often has little to do with background knowledge and deals more with grammar and theme. And a helpful strategy for asking the questions is that some of the strategies that you have used in previous English questions, such as referring back to your own background knowledge for vocabulary, will help you here on this question as well. And this is something that will also help you on the ACT as you are going through the reading section, which will often try to throw you off by using elevated vocabulary or sometimes concepts that you may be unfamiliar with. It is always best to stay calm and try to figure out what the question is actually trying to ask you and refer back to your knowledge of vocabulary and grammar to answer them. And here's sort of what the passage is for questions like number 3 how they will actually look on the exam. As you can see, they are 2 passages that are placed side by side, and the questions will come directly after, so you can always refer back as needed. And now moving on to section 2, which focuses more on grammar structures and grammar rules. So question 1, this type of question is intended to assess your application of grammar functions within context. These questions will use short passages with underlined phrase that uses incorrect grammar. So the objective of this question is to replace the underlined phrase with correct grammar. I will give you about a minute or 30 seconds actually to answer this question to the best of your abilities. So here's an explanation for why E is the correct answer. This answer is the most grammatically correct as the verb ending is changed to reflect that the passage is written in the past tense. Additionally, connecting these clauses with the word by shows that the second clause, inviting holy men, is the means through which the subject executed the first clause, turned his city into a center of learning. You do not need to know the specific grammar rules such as clauses for the exam, but understand that these grammar functions will help you understand why this question is correct. And there will be more of this on the next slide for strategies. So the process of elimination is really easy to do on questions like this. If you feel that the answer or none of the answers is a right fit, the process of elimination will be the most helpful tool. All you have to do is plug in each answer choice for the underlined portion of text and select the answer that fits in grammatically. As aforementioned, it is not necessary to know lots of grammar-based vocab or rules like I had brought up. These questions become easier with practice, and you can usually select the right answer by determining which answer best clarifies the meaning of the text. And moving into question 2, it's another grammar-based question intended to test your ability to determine errors in grammatical functions. These questions don't require you to correct the errors, but only to select the part of the sentence that is incorrect, sorry. So all you have to do is select the letter of the word or phrase that contains the error. If there is none, you can select E. I will give you about 30 seconds to answer this question. So here's the debrief. The correct answer is A. The subject of the sentence is the new buildings, and therefore it is plural. The verb was needs to be changed to were to agree with the subject. So the new sentence would be, all along the highway were vacant new office buildings. So that is the correct answer. Here's another question to practice a similar concept. All you have to do is select the word or phrase that contains the error. If there is none, you can select E. You have 30 more seconds to answer this question. Okay, and here's a quick explanation as to why the correct answer is C. So the subject of the sentence is a verb clause, actually. Leaving his beloved science fiction books at home is the subject of the sentence. This is considered a singular subject since it only describes one action. Similar to the last question, the verb were needs to be changed to was to match the singular subject. So the full sentence would be, leaving his beloved science fiction books at home when he went to camp last summer was among the most difficult things that Merrick had ever done. So here's some helpful strategies for this grammar section. So all you have to do is try to identify the subject of the sentence first, just like what we had just done. Common mistakes often include subject-verb agreement. Another common mistake is tense. So you have to determine if the sentence is describing an event in the past, perfect, or past, present, or future. If anything, if all those strategies fail, choose the answer that you think best clarifies the meaning of the sentence and trust your instinct. You know English better than you think. So question 3 is a question that is intended to test your writing abilities by correcting and formatting an essay that is already written for you. All you have to do is read the passage and answer the following questions about organization and style. I will allow you to have 2 minutes to read this question. And before we move on to the actual question, I would like to clarify that the numbers within this paragraph are sentence numbers that will be utilized in the question to answer specific questions about the passage itself and the organization. So we can actually move on to the next question, which will give you a better hint about this. So you can look at this question and answer it. This sentence is actually labeled number 5 in the preceding passage, so which I have replicated below for you guys. So you can take about a minute to answer this question before we move on. Okay, so here's an explanation for the preceding question. The correct answer is D, in order to conduct his research. In the second paragraph, Ekman had not yet conducted any sort of experiment to test his theory. Therefore, the only correct option is the one that implies the necessity of his action. Using this answer choice effectively transitions into the rest of the second paragraph, in which the author writes about Ekman's methods. So a helpful strategy is looking at context. When giving a question like this, try plugging in each of the answer choices, just like we had done in a question before. The answer choice or just the answer choice you deem is best fit. Be sure to read not only the sentence that you are given, but also the sentences before and after to get a better handle on the context of the passage and the question that you are being asked. And if you have additional questions, feel free to refer back to this recording to go through questions, and you can also see the slides in order. And I would like to mention again to join us for our math practice session, which will be at 7:30. So thank you everyone for joining us for this quick English and reading. Oh, we actually have a question. So what are the differences between the SAT and ACT reading and writing? So on the ACT, there are only 2 English and reading sections. The first English section will take you through a passage in which they're going to give you a full-length essay or passage. You do not need to read the full passage for the English section only. You'll focus only on what's underlined and the specific questions they'll ask about ordering and structure there. On the reading section, that is when it's most similar to what we've gone through on this PSAT practice, in which you'll have to read the full passage and answer a question based on the context. I would say that is the biggest similarity and difference between the SAT and the ACT. But again, these questions are very similar in the content that they ask you about central idea and themes, and also with vocabulary and grammar corrections. How to do time management if we run out of time? For sure. So on the ACT, it is a little bit different in that if you run out of time, it's best to just fill in all the answer choices possible. On the PSAT, do the same thing again, answer the questions to the best of your abilities if you do run out of time. But also be sure to quickly read the passage beforehand. Like I said, you want to read it as quick as possible and refer back as needed. That'll help you best with time management. So you're not stuck focusing on the passage while you are still reading it and eventually run out of time on each question. All right. And if that is all, thank you all for joining, and please be sure to rewatch this video if you have any other questions, and join us tomorrow for our math practice. The presentation is also accessible to you all if you want to use it for reference.